views, opinions, and content of this show are those of the host, guests, and callers. They do not necessarily reflect those of Local Matters Broadcasting, LLC, its owners, partners, affiliates, assigns, or heirs. Having said that, it's now time to say good morning, St. Johns County. Welcome to the weekly radio show of the St. Johns County Council on Aging, better known in our community as the COA. We are your local nonprofit agency who for the past 52 years has been leading and advocating for the dignity and independence of seniors and responding to their changing needs. I'm Brian Robinson, Program Director for COA, broadcasting to you live from the studio of WFOY 102.1 FM, your local radio station for news, sports, and talk. Before we get into our show, let me remind you, as I do each and every week, if you have a question, comment, or a suggestion for a radio show topic, or if you have a question while you're listening today, you can send that email to radio@coasjc.org. Again, that's radio@coasjc.org, and I do have my email up in front of me. I'll be monitoring that. And if we can work your question into today's show, we will do our best to make that happen. Joining me this morning is St. Johns County Commissioner Ann Taylor. Commissioner Taylor, welcome back to the weekly radio show of the St. Johns County Council on Aging.
Well, good morning. I'm so happy to be here.
It's good to have you back. You know, I had you on back in February of last year, and you were just a month into the role, and it was good to have you on there. But now you got a little bit more time under your belt, so to speak, and so we'll talk a little bit more about that and some of the things that you've been excited about. But first, let's start with, just in case, you know, anybody's listening out there this morning, maybe they just moved to St. Johns County, right? And they're just tuning in this morning, and they're like, oh my gosh, one of the commissioners is on. And so let's let those people get to know you. Tell them about yourself and how long you've lived here and whatever else you want them to know.
Great. Well, I'd love to. I moved here with my entire family, moved here in 2013. I am the proud mom of two teenage boys now. One is a freshman in college. I'm so proud of him. He's going to school as well as he is serving in the Army's National Guard. Mm-hmm. Very proud of him. And then I also have a junior in high school, and they keep me very, very busy. And I could not be more excited to be in the role that I'm in now. I've never worked harder for anything, and I just really try to make the most of every day. And one thing that I hear often is that, Commissioner Taylor, we can tell that you are not a politician. You are truly a public servant, and that's how I feel, and I love that people realize that.
Yeah, and that's a great compliment when folks give that to you, because that's what we want in our leaders, right? We want someone in the role that we feel is representing us and understands what we're going through. And that's great that they pay that compliment to you.
Yes.
And two teenage boys, my goodness. So both of my kids are at 26 and 23 now. And, so I've been where you've been. And so
my biggest question to people that have two boys is, when are they going to get along? So hopefully at some point
Hopefully at some point they will.
Exactly.
Yes, absolutely.
Exactly.
Well, that's great. Well, thanks for sharing that part for our folks to get to know you a little bit better. And so, you at some point, prior to 2024, you decided to throw your name in the hat there and give it a go and run for commissioner, and the folks elected you. And I remember when you were on the show last year, you kind of talked about that process of what it was like going out. And, it's a lot of work running for public office, especially if it's the first time doing it, because folks don't know you. They don't know what, like when you're in it for a while, they can look at your record and make a decision based on that record. But going into it brand new, that's a big challenge, isn't it?
Yeah, it certainly is. And I've never done anything like this. I've worked my entire career, but just nothing like this. So one of the best things I did was I actually made the investment in a little electric scooter.
Okay.
And I was able to knock on a lot of doors. I mean, when you hear about grassroots, mm-hmm. I give that a whole new meaning. Sure. So yeah, but I knocked on a lot of doors, and if it wasn't for that scooter, I wouldn't have been able to hit nearly as many doors. Was
this an electric scooter or a manual one that you had to push?
It was an electric one.
Okay.
Yeah, it was I had to make sure it was charged, and but I definitely was able to hit a lot more doors with it.
That's fun. That's a great way to get around and meet folks. That's great. Well, so now you're into the role about 16 months, and so you've had a lot to learn, going into a new role. And a lot of times they use the phrase, it's like drinking water from a fire hose, right? Because there's so much being thrown at you. But now you're 16 months into it, and you kind of understand what's going on and how to do things. And you've able to accomplished some things in 16 months. And so I guess my next question would be like, what have been the most rewarding experiences for you in this time frame?
Sure, well, I'd love to share that, but I just have one little correction.
Yes.
When you said from the beginning, drinking from a fire hose, I would actually say more like a fire hydrant.
Okay.
Yes. So yes,
Gotcha.
I wish it was a fire hose, but I think initially it was probably more of a fire hydrant.
Yeah,
But
I can imagine that. Sure.
But I love that. I really feel like I went from 0 to 60 because I really had my foot on the gas from day one, and I make the most of every single day. They say technically this is a part-time position, and my husband laughs.
He
says,
imagine.
there is nothing part-time about this, at least the way you do it. So I go morning, noon, night, and weekends, and I absolutely love it. I love meeting so many of our residents, people that have been here forever, people that are brand new to our county. We have an amazing staff at the county, people that genuinely really do care so much about our residents and love what they do and really want to help people. And one of the things that I enjoy so much is bringing those two groups together. You know, when they have a question about something, bringing them together and let's see, okay, where can we go from here, and getting the right people in the room that do know how to help them.
That is a great thing about St. Johns County, because I encounter that as the program director of Council on Aging, is just to see all the collaboration that takes place, not only between all the other nonprofits, but also with the government agencies, right? And it's just fantastic to see that collaboration so that we can come together and really come up with solutions for our people in the county, because we look at it, we might have a service that we don't provide. But it's nice to say, oh, but we know so-and-so at this nonprofit, or reach out to so-and-so at the county or the city or whatever, whoever it may be. And it's great having that collaboration because it helps us to better serve our people.
Exactly. And that's really what it's all about. That's really what it's all about. It's about quality of life and what can we do to serve the residents in this county.
And I was at the commissioner meeting last week, and I was there for the mental health official, proclamation.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just had a different word coming to mind. I knew it wasn't the right one. Proclamation. And I just love that you all do that. I love that you make, not just mental health, but a lot of different things that are going on. But I love that you do that and make an official proclamation. It was good to be a part of that. Yeah. First time I ever was to a commissioner meeting. And I just love the fact that folks can just come up and kind of share what's, you give them 3 minutes, and they got that they got the timer in front of them.
Yes.
But it gives everybody an opportunity to let their voice be heard. I love that you do that.
It is. And what I like too is that you're referring to public comment. And so that is when we listen to residents can come up and they speak to us directly, and it's for things that are not on the agenda. And it's interesting because we moved it so it's the first thing that we hear in the morning. So which is great. So that way if people do have to get to work or whatever, they can come first thing when we do our public comments. Our meetings start at 9:00 and they will have 3 minutes as you just suggested. And, but yeah, it's a great way. We do want to hear from people, and it's not limited as far as how many people. So there are times, depending on the topic, where we've gone 60, 90 minutes listening to public comment. So I know in the past they've actually had a 30-minute limit, and we do not have that any longer. So we truly do want to hear from our residents.
Yeah, that's great. And sometimes it's just nice to be heard.
Yep.
Like you may not be able to have a solution at the moment or in the very near future, but it's just nice to be heard, and that the people who are in charge, right, and making decisions, that they know how folks are feeling. And so I commend you for doing that. All the commissioners for making that part of the meeting. That's fantastic that you do that. Yeah. Well, we're going to take our first break. We'll continue our conversation right after these commercial messages that are coming up. And you are listening to the weekly radio show, the St. Johns County Council on Aging. And we'll be right back after these messages. And welcome back to the weekly radio show of the St. Johns County Council on Aging, here on WFOY 102.1 FM, your local radio station for news, sports, and talk. I'm Brian Robinson, Program Director for COA, and my guest this morning is the one and only Commissioner Ann Taylor. And we have been having a wonderful conversation. In the first segment, you gave us a little bit of background about yourself, and then we're just talking about getting into the role and some of the things that you've been enjoying about it. And so let's kind of dig a little bit deeper here and get a little bit more detailed with some of our questions. As a new commissioner, I'm certain you've had many issues that you wanted to tackle that impact all of the residents. But our primary demographic here, people listening and the people that we serve, we're 60 years of age and older, right? And so basically those that fall into what we would say the senior population. And so these questions are going to be more geared towards, that demographic. So, our county continues to grow, and that also means that the number of individuals who are 60 or older continues to increase. So how would you like to better serve the seniors of St. Johns County?
Sure. Well, the St. Johns County, we have a strategic plan, and that really is a roadmap for charting a course for the future. And one of the 6 priorities for this is community well-being. And that could not be more important for people 60 and up. And what we want to do is we want to expand access to safe public places, diverse recreational facilities, attainable housing, and innovative community activities, just to foster that physical and that mental well-being and connectivity between our community. But some of the things that includes for seniors are we really want to improve and expand the recreational and cultural facilities for them. Mm-hmm. We want to promote connections across the community as well, and just overall, just more social type things for them to do. The arts and culture is a big thing. We want to preserve as much of that and do programs and that kind of thing for those residents. And we've heard from them that those are the type of things that they would appreciate.
That answers a great segue then into my next question, because one of the things that that we provide programs and services to seniors. Last year, we served over 4,300 seniors in St. Johns County.
That's amazing.
And so just a big shout out to our staff, our volunteers, everybody that makes that happen, including the leaders at the county. The county is gracious to provide us space so that we can provide programming. We utilize facilities at Trout Creek, Ponte Vedra, and Hastings.
Yeah.
And then also, here in St. Augustine, our main building, 180 Marine Street, is also a county building. And then also River House is our building, but it's on county land, Mm-hmm. So there's this great partnership between us and the county. And so I love the fact that one of the things that you want to do is bring more programming, make that more available to the seniors. So I'm kind of wondering, are there any other buildings in the county that maybe we could provide programming for seniors that I haven't realized are there, or thinking of the new ones that are being built, right? So.
Yeah, and I'm so glad that you mentioned that, because we do have a number of new parks coming up that we're in the process of, as well as most of those parks are going to also have a library, mm-hmm. and that will be wonderful for educational classes, especially for those seniors as well. So we are looking at all of those types of things. I know you mentioned Hastings. There's also one coming in Nocatee, but we really want to expand that, and currently we're looking to expand that as well in the Ponte Vedra Library as well. So a number of programming for that kind of things. And our library also has something called the Library of Things. And what that is, it's really neat. It's a collection of non-traditional materials, and that includes mobile hotspots, telescopes, binoculars, adventure packs, and all that kind of stuff. And people are able to come into the library and get those absolutely free just by having a library card.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Well, and I love that you brought up the library, because the library has been a great partner for us. We started what's called a memory cafe, and a memory cafe is for folks who have dementia, right? And their caregiver, so they can come together and they get to meet with other couples who are in a similar situation. And we have 4 memory cafes now. This is part of our what's called the St. Johns County Dementia Care and Cure Initiative Task Force. We call it DCCI Task Force for short, because saying all those words is a very long name. But we started this. This is actually a program of the Department of Elder Affairs, and we started it in St. Johns County in April of last year. So we're just now celebrating our 1-year anniversary. But one of the initiatives was to start these memory cafes. And it's just been nice to be able to partner with the library, and they provide us space, and we've been having folks come out, and there's no charge for them to come to be a part of it. And we have just gotten so much great feedback from those that have been participating in it, because they get to come together and be around some other folks who are going through that same journey of dementia. Yes. And, if I don't know if you've ever had, that experience of being around somebody with dementia, whether that's a loved one or a friend or whoever. And, it's just a very challenging journey to go through, not only for the person with it, but for the people caring for them.
The family. And I do want to add, too, that it seems like we hear more and more about it. Like just about everyone you talk to has been touched by somebody, whether it be a family member or somebody they know. But, unfortunately, we hear more and more about that type of thing with dementia. So anything we can do to help them, that's wonderful. God bless. God bless you for doing that.
Yeah. And so, again, just want to commend the libraries for allowing us to have that space and do that. And I'm so glad that you're, involved with that and wanting to bring in more things there at the library to make more things available for folks, not just seniors, but everybody. But, again, it's great for the seniors to be able to go and partake of that. I know when Commissioner Joseph was on the radio show with me, she was talking about how nice it is at the library in Nocatee, right? Because it's right next to the park there. And so you could go if you want and get, enjoy a book or whatever, and then walk in that park that's right next to it. And I've been up there one time, and that's a nice little area.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I think it's a wonderful idea to have both at the same place. So I think it's absolutely amazing.
Well, great. Yeah. Well, we're looking forward to continuing our partnership with the county and being able to provide more and more programming for our seniors. And I'm so excited that you're just on board with that and willing to help us out with that. So let's dive into another topic. And this is dealing with something that took place in the recent legislative session for the state of Florida. The House passed what is known as HJR 203 by a vote of 80-30, and this proposed a constitutional amendment to phase out the non-school portion of property taxes on homestead properties over a multi-year period. But the bill ultimately died in the Senate Appropriations Committee. And though this would have benefited homeowners, including seniors on a fixed income, it would have significantly reduced county commission budgets across the state, including St. Johns County. So how would this have impacted our county's budget if it had passed, been signed by the governor, and then approved by Florida voters?
Sure. And I'm so glad that you're asking about that. The board, we did unanimously approve a $1.8 billion budget for fiscal year 2026. And that marked the county's first property tax reduction that we've had since 2021. So that was a really big step. This is what's really interesting is that even though the budget is around $1.8 billion, the budget allocates $383 million of that are from property tax revenue. And so that money is where public safety, infrastructure, the parks we just talked about, the libraries, that all comes out of that. So even though it's a $1.8 billion budget, I think it's really important for people to know that a lot of that is not tied to property taxes. It's just that smaller portion, less than $400 million are part of that. And of that money as well, that's what funds our local government. Not everybody is aware, but local government is only funded by property taxes.
Yeah, so this is a very important issue then, because that could have had a very negative impact on some of these services that are provided.
Absolutely. And that's why, they're in session right now. So we're really paying close attention to that. We're getting ready to start our budget sessions. So we'll be hearing from all the different departments on their needs. And it is a very challenging time, as you mentioned, right when we started off the program, just with the growth that we've had in this county. So we have more and more people to take care of, more and more services that are being asked.
All right, that music means it's time for our next break. We'll continue our conversation with Commissioner Taylor right after these messages. And welcome back to the weekly radio show, the St. Johns County Council on Aging, here on WFOY 102.1 FM, your local radio station for news, sports, and talk. I'm Brian Robinson, Program Director for COA. And before we continue our conversation with Commissioner Ann Taylor, let me just make an announcement that next week, starting at noon on May 6th, we will have Giving Day in our community, and this has been going on for several years now. I had the honor and privilege to work at the focus group back when it started, and it's been so much fun to see it evolve into what it has become, and it is an opportunity for you to give to nonprofits that you want to support, and I want to encourage you to give to Council on Aging. For the very first time that I'm aware of, we have somebody who is going to match every dollar triple it, actually, triple it. So every dollar that's given, this person is going to triple it up to $10,000, which means we have the opportunity to bring in $30,000 on Giving Day, which will help us to continue serving our seniors at the level that we provide to them with the different programs and services. And everybody listening, gas is on the rise. The cost of food continues to rise, and so insurance is on the rise. Everything rises, right? And which means that we need more money to continue to serve our seniors at the level that we do. And we actually want to serve them even more than what we currently do. And so your generosity will be greatly appreciated. So you can make your gift between noon on May 6th through 11:59 a.m. on May 7th. And you can go to see if I get my tongue to work properly, givingday.us/organization/council-on-aging. But you can also find us just by going to www.givingday.us and find us, make your donation. It will be tripled. And then also you can share it on your social media and tell your family and your neighbors and your friends and whoever that you're supporting us. And maybe then they will also be inspired to give. And you can let everybody in your network know about it, and you can make even a bigger impact. And so stay tuned for more details on that. If you get our newsletter, you'll find details in that as well. And you can sign up for our newsletter by going to our website, coasjc.org, and get signed up for our newsletter. And next week on the show, I will have folks from Giving Day on the show for the first segment. Will Aguilar and Jamie Sellers will be with me, and they're going to tell you a little bit more about Giving Day. We'll be kind of in the middle of it at that point in time, but they're going to share more details with you then. So looking forward to that, always looking forward to being a part of this and supporting Council on Aging so that we can support our seniors. All right, so let's continue our conversation with Commissioner Taylor. And one of the things in the last segment that stuck out to me is you talked about attainable housing. And I love the fact that you use that phrase, because so often we hear the phrase affordable housing, and really affordable is kind of defined differently by different people, because what's affordable to me might not be affordable to you or affordable to somebody else. So I love that you use the term attainable, because that's really what we want, is for folks to be able to attain housing and then also retain it, right? Yes. So it means it needs to be within, a range that is within their income level, right? And so one of the things that we are discovering with our seniors is they might find themselves in a place and then the rent goes up. Mm-hmm. They might own their house and then their insurance goes up. And so they are in situations that they cannot afford or retain the housing that they have. And so we're also discovering that the homeless population amongst our seniors is also increasing, right? We're finding more seniors in the homeless population, seniors who are living in their cars. And that just breaks my heart, as I'm sure it does yours. And so what is the county commissioners looking to do to address this so that there's more attainable housing for our seniors?
Sure. And I'm so glad that you asked that, because I hear about that quite often. And it is very challenging. I'm actually the liaison to the housing committee that I'm on about attainable and that affordable housing. But like you said, it's affordable to me may not be affordable to somebody else. So it's very subjective and changes often. And I think a few things that I wish I had a magic wand. I wish that I could say, oh yeah, we've got an answer to this. And we're able to fix it. But what I will say is, as far as the market goes, I think some of the challenges are really tied to just the explosive growth, not only in our county, but also, in the state. We live at an amazing pace. People want to be here, especially after COVID. I think that clearly we saw just an unimaginable increase in the people that want to be here. We're a coastal community, so that alone makes it very desirable. But there are, like you mentioned, there are a number of things. I will say this, that there are I'm really passionate about this. In fact, when I went to Tallahassee recently, I actually spoke to a policymaker about this. So I'm really passionate, and I really want to work with the state to see what can we do. There were a couple of things that were looked at that didn't go very far, that I would really like to meet with our local legislators and see what we can do further. But when it comes to especially retainable, what's really heartbreaking to me is when I hear about people that have worked so hard and they have something paid off. And then what's happening at the state level, I'm just going to use, let's say, condos for an example. If you know anybody that has a condo right now, if that condo is if that building is 3 stories or more, there are a number of things that are required now. What happened was there was a very tall condo structure that collapsed in Miami.
I remember seeing that.
Yes, Surfside, and that, to be honest, that was just a matter of time. I mean, they literally, that HOA kicked the can down the road. It was just a matter of time before that building was going to collapse. They built up. It had all kinds of structural damage. But because that building collapsed, that has had just a detrimental impact on so many people in our state, including many, many people here in St. Johns County. And so what they are requiring, so the state went from, after that happened, they put all these extreme measures in place that ultimately end up costing people a lot of money, and that includes our seniors. And this is the thing, I talked earlier that I have 2 boys. I'm not going to punish both boys for something one of them did. Mm-hmm. And that's exactly what happened with that Surfside collapse. So now we're all being punished because of something that they did. Well, it was a matter of time before that building collapsed. That was not a big surprise. But one of the things that we need to look at is, right now, if it's 3 stories or more, even if we could increase that to condos that have 5 or 6 stories, I mean, that would help a lot of people, because what's happening is that they're doing these surveys. There's only a handful of engineering companies that even do this, and then they're also being required to have a lot of money as far as in assessments, and that goes on hand. So let's say a condo has 8 buildings in there. Oh,
one sec. All right, that music means we've got to take our next break. Hold that thought, and we'll come right back after these messages and let you continue answering that question. And welcome back to the final segment of the weekly radio show of the St. Johns County Council on Aging here on WFOY 102.1 FM, your local radio station for news, sports, and talk. I'm Brian Robinson, Program Director for COA. My guest this morning is County Commissioner Ann Taylor. And prior to the commercial break, you were talking a little bit more about, what plan is in place or that you're hoping to at least put in place for attainable housing, especially for our seniors.
Yes, exactly. And also thinking about that they are on fixed incomes.
Exactly.
So their incomes are not changing. So when extra insurance or assessments are put on them, that's a really big strain. And then they've got to choose between medication, food, or their housing is what it comes down to. But there are some things at the state that unfortunately didn't make it very far this year. But one of my goals this coming year is to meet with our legislators and really get some of these things forward that truly can help people. And this is the thing, once we have senior citizens in their homes, and oftentimes they are paid for, we've got to make sure that they stay in them. We cannot have people displaced because of additional costs and that are through no fault of their own. So I'm really, really passionate about there. And there are some things that we can do to keep people in their homes. Another big thing that unfortunately didn't make it very far, I think either the House or the Senate brought it up there, but it didn't make it very far. And that is for people that live in there's a 55 plus community here in St. Johns County, and they have manufactured homes. Well, they own the homes, but they lease the land. Mm-hmm. And there's been a big issue all over our state with the increase in the rent for their land.
Right.
And that's heartbreaking what's going on. And there was a bill where if they are going to have a big increase, they need to justify it and say, okay, where is that money going? You can't just randomly increase the amount that they're charging, because they've got to place it somewhere. But anyway, that unfortunately that didn't go very far. But there are some things that that we can do, and I do think that we need to work with the state and be collaborative on some of those. I will say this, that I've spoken to a number of people, and I do think finally that our market is stabilizing a little bit more. We certainly can't. That growth that we had after COVID was not the norm, and so I do think that things are are definitely stabilizing, and that. So let's hope that in turn will kind of mean that, the rent and rates and all that kind of stuff. This is interesting when you talk about rent. I actually just had a meeting this week with an apartment association, and they cover a number of counties. And I said one thing that's kind of frustrating is that we have a number of apartments in place, but what they're doing is to be competitive is they're not lowering the price, but they'll give an incentive.
Mm-hmm.
So they'll give, like, rather than lower the overall monthly cost, they'll give an incentive, like maybe a few months of free rent or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So they're doing a lot of things like that, which in the end doesn't really affect the overall price point.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, but there's a number of things. And, as a county commission, there's only so much within our realm that we can do. But I'm very willing to listen and to see, what can we do? Because this is a very important part of our population. We do want to do all we can to support them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's talk about maybe some exciting projects that are currently underway in St. Johns County that maybe we haven't talked about.
Yes, I would love to. And it does seem like I've been so busy just in the last week or so. We had, if you are ever off of County Road 210 near Beach Walk, we just had that project was finally completed. It was an amazing widening of the road there. And there's a new traffic signal, and additional travel lanes are there. And that's all actually happens to be in my district, District 5. And I cannot even count the number of emails and phone calls that I've received about that project. So I'm so thrilled that we finally did the ribbon cutting there recently. And that's just going to be a great, just such an improvement for people to be able to actually move and be able to get to where they're going. Also, there's going to be an open house on the Greenbrier Road widening project coming up, and that's going to be a 1.5 mile gap to expand that to 4 lanes. So that's going to be coming up. The community open house is actually April 30th tonight. And so that's going on. That'll be at Bartram Trail High School from 5 to 6 p.m. And we're expecting construction to begin late 26 or early 27. Also, this is very exciting. I hear all the time that we need, as far as beach access. We live in a beautiful place with amazing beaches. Porpoise Point now has a new access ramp.
Okay.
So for vehicles, so that project is completed, and that actually was done a month ahead of schedule. So very, very exciting there. It was closed for some resiliency upgrades on January 5th, and instead of opening in May, it actually is open now. So that's huge. And also, too, this was very exciting. The county recently purchased almost 33 acres of land from the Sykes Family Limited Partnership, and that's going to be the site of a future park. So that's super exciting. A regional park will be there that's going to serve residents in the southern part of our county. And they're going to have things like, they're going to have all kinds of things. But also we've got the Silverleaf Sportsplex, Shearwater Community Park and Library, and the Greenwater Park and Library, and that in our area. And also Davis Park also just went through a renovation. So we've got lots of things. We hear all the time that we don't have nearly enough parks and recreation for the people that are here. So very excited to be part of that.
Well, it's so exciting to be a part of this county. I'm originally from West Virginia, and steel mill town that I grew up in. Of course, the steel mill industry, has for the most part died, and so did my community for the most part. And we recently have some new businesses coming in there, and it's slowly picking up. But when I go home to visit, it's still what it was 5 years ago. So it's exciting to be here and see the growth that's going on. Yes, it comes with the growing pains, right, of construction and things like that. But it's just exciting to be a part of a community that's growing, and to have county commissioners who are interested in doing these type of projects that are going to make it even more enjoyable for residents, right? The parks and different things that you have. I love that you have that focus, that you're not just focused on let's completely develop everything and have no parks at all, because the parks are nice. It's nice to go out to the parks. I mean, it's nice to go to the beaches and just to be able to enjoy the beautiful nature that we have in this county as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. There's nothing better than fresh air.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So we have a few minutes left. How about some, projects that you want to see happen? You got about 2.5 years left in this term. And as you know, time flies by quickly. So what are some things that you would love to see accomplished in this first term of yours?
Sure. Well, one of the things that we worked really, really hard on as far as the county did as a whole, and that was our comprehensive plan. And basically, that's really a roadmap to where growth is going to go and infrastructure and that. And one of the things that was devastating this past year is that the county spent not only a significant amount of time, we had community meetings, we heard from residents all over the county. We spent a lot of money, a lot of our tax dollars put on our comprehensive plan. And it was very disappointing to have that plan submitted to the state and then rejected due to a recent bill that then became a law, and that's called SB 180. And so one of the things that I want to do is, what happened is that bill really tied our hands and that we could not submit the plan or it would not be approved what we put all that time, energy, and money into. And it's infuriating to me. It is, we could spend a whole hour on my thoughts about that. But what's so disappointing is that we've got to wait until that bill's going to sunset in October of 2027. And hopefully we'll be able to go back and revisit that. The bill, I mean, it had good intentions. It was tied to people that want to build after a hurricane. But part of the wording is in there is that a county cannot do anything that is considered restrictive or burdensome. Well, that is extremely subjective, and just about anything can be considered restrictive or burdensome, even how far a pickleball court is to a home. Sure. So they really took it to the nth degree, and but that's something that I really want to focus on, is that we worked really hard on that comprehensive plan, and we want to get the right one submitted.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so you kind of, so you either have to wait until that bill sunsets, right, or you go ahead and revise the current plan and submit it again, or
we ended up submitting the weekend plan. So it's watered down, but it was able to get through the state. But so right now we did just recently vote to submit the weekend plan. But my hope, that isn't what the residents in our county want. So my hope is that we can revisit that as soon as possible. I was really hoping, there was talk about a glitch bill that would have hopefully done something a little bit sooner than waiting until October 2027. But that did not come to fruition this year in our, when our legislature met. So we're going to keep an eye on it and see what happens. But like I said, I think it's really important that people pay attention to what is going on, not only at the county level, but the state level.
All right. Well, that music means our time for our show to end. Commissioner Taylor, thank you so much for being on the show with us. It's always good to talk with you, and thank you for all of the hard work that you do. All right, folks, you have a great week. We'll be back on the air next week, same time, same place, right here on WFOY 102.1 FM.